Hi, this is Marin Mamun from Brack Business School, Brack University. I'm going to do a lecture on ethics in international business. By this time, you have already listened to Ms. Fabiha on your first lecture, which is globalization. And you've also learned that as we move on to business as it grows, as the world has become flat, we have seen that how business intertwine with each other. That means if you are to do business in one country from another, your way of doing business has to match with the host country where you want to do your business in. So in doing so, we have this second lecture, which is on international business ethics, has its own genre, if you may say, because this is the most important factor. If you are not paying attention to it properly, then your business might just backfire. Your intention to do business in a developing country might cost you more money than you could have ever imagined. That is why this is a very important topic of discussion for our syllabus, and we have kept it intentionally in your second discussion as a lecture because this is kind of a base. Before the midterm, all the chapters we have kept it as a base for you to understand business better, not just from theoretical perspectives, also by practices. So let's continue. We will now look into each of the issues that we have. But sorry, before that, um, by ethics, you might think about it means the difference between right and wrong. So if I'm not telling the truth, that is wrong. If I'm telling a lie, that is wrong. If I'm speaking the truth, that is right. Now, who decides? What decides this right and wrong? What is the difference between right from one country to another? We can come up with an example of animal cruelty. That is a debate. But if you mix animal cruelty with religion, it becomes a different debate. So it depends from one country to another. There are some gender issues, there are some ethical issues. So ethics is different from business ethics because business ethics deals with the accepted moral principles undertaken by most of the stakeholders in doing business in a particular setup. So this setup could be a country, this setup could be an industry, this setup could be in a particular shop or brand or business where you are doing business. It doesn't have to be a generic term, business ethics. Whereas the term general ethics or just ethics is morally accepted principles amongst universal notions. So saying all the truth, not telling a lie, not killing people are ethical things to do. All right, moving on. Um, so, when you are a business manager, when you are representing a business brand, when you are trying to uphold the value of your brand up high, and in doing so, you've been placed in a country where the ethical terms are not as matching as to what you are aware of. So if you belong to a developed country and you've come to do business in Bangladesh, you've been maybe a regional manager who's working in Bangladesh, and you might find our way of doing things are a bit different as you know it. So irrespective of wherever you go, irrespective of whichever country an international manager might go to, it's understandably so, according to the author of the book and according to all the practices that has been happening so far. There are five key ethical issues that we regularly deal with. So the international business managers, they regularly deal with five key issues. So these are known as five ethical issues. Remember, after the end of each topic, we will have a bit of an assessment questions. So the next five segments, I hope that you'd listen to me very carefully, maybe take notes, maybe match with whatever I'm saying with the book chapters that you have, maybe with the detailed PowerPoint and the descriptions that you have, because right after this, before you go to the next topic, you would have to answer to a few questions, which for that you need to listen to me now very carefully. Moving on. So the first issue that international business managers face with are the dilemma or the decision related to employment practice. So by employment practice, we mean there are strict difference between the notions, practice, policies between home country and host country. I'm hoping that you already are aware what is the meaning of home country and host country. So the home country is where the mother company belong to, and the host country is where they have expanded to. So if DHL is a German company, they belong to Germany. So the home country is Germany, and when they have done decide to do business in Bangladesh, we become the host country. So this home country and host country, which country do you think has a markedly improved structure or way of doing business? Germany, obviously, because they belong to a first world country. However, when a German manager is shifted, you've learned it from globalization because work shifts from one country to another as it's a flat world. So when a German manager comes to do business in Bangladesh, and he has been placed as an offshore staff, he would face this sense of not so belongingness. He will not feel that this setup is good. He will not feel that this is his way of doing business. So what the German company will do, what the home country managers will do, they will maybe place him in a very good office. Maybe they will offer him a huge compensation. Maybe they will make sure that his family is well taken care of. Maybe his kids will go to the best school possible in Dhaka. So the because why it's an issue, so it's fine, you already know that these things are happening, that foreigners are getting jobs here in Bangladesh and they are being very well taken care of. However, the issue would come as to how much do you compensate these people, and what is the rationale of compensating them that much. Why can't you find somebody from your host country and come up with a polycentric economy where you would find somebody from the host country to represent your company, because these people ultimately are representative of the country who would know how to work better in given situation. So this dilemma comes as an issue because not only you have to bring a person from his home base, but you have to compensate him a lot, maybe over your expenditure budget, to set him up in a host country, and where you might even have to hire more people to support him. So it becomes an issue. And do you see why it's called an issue? Because there is always a dilemma around ethics, around moral principles in doing business internationally. Moving on to the next issue, which is human rights. Um, what are our rights? Do you know, are you aware of your right? Do you know that you have the right to form a group? Do you know that you have the right to protest against whatever you feel like it's acceptable by the society? It should be, you should not be stopped from a mass gathering. So these are our rights. You have the right to be heard, you have the right to speak out, you have the we have the right to say no. So if you have heard of a company called Gap, and there was this documentary, I will post the link to you in the description box. What has happened is Gap hired the sweatshop in Mumbai slums. So the 8-year-old, 5-year-old kids between this age range, their size was um, convenient for these companies, for this Gap outsource them to. So they would fit them in a very small cubicle, which is inhuman to work in. And they have hired these child laborers who would have otherwise gone to schools, but because they pay more and because they are belong to a poor society, their their work has been taken advantage of, their life has been taken advantage of. So when you work in this situation, the human rights issue would be, if you take that kid away from that work, which is obviously his that those children are working in a very miserable condition, the spokesperson for Gap has to say that they would have lived in a more pathetic situation if we wouldn't be recruiting them. So this is a huge issue as to how much of right you are allowed to uh, take back, and how much human rights do you think your employee, the people, citizens of your host country are aware of. Because companies are known to play around this human rights, because if you do not even know what your rights are, you wouldn't even know that something's being wrong done to you. and that's a major human rights issue done in terms of exploitation of us, of people living in the developing countries. We are moving on to our next issue, which is environment that we have taken for granted. And unfortunately, we live exactly the time that we live in right now. This is a testament of what has we have been doing to our mother nature for so long, because we thought this is us, this is ours, and this won't stop. We can keep on cutting down on trees, we can keep on doing business which would directly harm the water, the air, the soil, and everything. And now we are at a stage where the nature sort of is has answered. So when you whatever business you do, and the host country that you are doing business in, how much environmental regulations they follow, how much environment regulation you are allowed to diverge from, how much environment regulation you are they would ignore if you go through. So let me give you an example of a garment industry. If you install recyclable waste, the home country or the buyer's office, they will accept your product. Now there are some organizations, because there are kind of a cap till how much you are allowed to pollute the environment. That means if you stick to a certain stage of making pollution, you are allowed, they will still allow your product back in the host country, home country, and you don't even have to install that machine. So this is kind of a example of ethical issue. Are you going to install $1,000 machine, or you are fine because the host country won't even care because already they are polluting the environment? So this is a very key issue, because remember, the world that we live in today, we are knowledgeable citizens. If I have any issue, I can just look for it, and I do know how to look for these answers. Similarly, if I'm not doing the business right, people will know that I'm not doing the business right, because it's open, the business environment is open. So that comes to our uh, another issue, which is corruption. And this is something that um, those who we are living in this part of the world has it's kind sort of part of us. So if you are an international manager, and if you see that how a country's government works around corruption, you have to make your business strategy around those standard of corruption. You can see there are, I will post some cases exactly on corruption, that how business has gotten away with not being too ethical. However, they have gotten away in setting up their business in a particular area, because they have been allowed, because of maybe there is a loop in paperwork, because there's been loop in the way business has been accepted in those locations. So corruption is another key issue, fourth most important issue in trying to set up your business worldwide. Okay, and last but not the least is moral obligation. If I have done business in a particular area, say Naranganj or Gajipur, and I have obviously uprooted a system of livelihood in that area. Say, for example, there was green, there was a village in Naranganj maybe 30 years ago, during the 80s maybe. And because I have started my factory there, and I have started doing business over there, I have changed the scenario in that area, and that scenario has caused the lives of the people to work for me or around me. So I have to pay back to those society, I have to pay back to those people in Gajipur or in Naranganj. But that means I have to maybe open a free clinic, maybe I have to open a free hospital, maybe I have to set up schools for the children. So these five issues are most important in setting up your business worldwide, and you have to understand, as business student, as business international business managers, the new normal, no matter how strange it sounds, we have to make sure that we are ready for it. Business as usual.